All right. We'll begin the staff presentation with Ms. Pourvahidi, followed by General Van Winkle.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Umberg. As you know, over the past 11 months, the California High-Speed Rail Authority has been awarded $2.565 billion in total federal high-speed intercity program funding. That consists of January's $2.25 American Recovery and Reinvestment Act stimulus funding, minus the $400 million that was allocated directly to the Transbay Terminal, and October's award of $715 million of fiscal year 2010 funding. Together with the state's planned matching dollars, a dollar-for-dollar match for the ARA funds, and the 30% match for the FY 2010 funding, a total of $4.33 billion is available to initiate construction work on the project. While we may have desired a different timetable by which to bring this action item to the board and to help further explain the decision point to our stakeholders, we are constrained by deadlines dictated by the federal government. The Federal Railroad Administration has informed the authority that it intends to conclude the funding and cooperative agreements for these funds by December 31st, 2010, and therefore we must have in writing and in detail our plans for expending these first funds no later than December 10th. So that is why we are here today before you, just 8 days before that deadline. The FRA has told us, the authority, that the allocated funds must be applied along the alignment in the Central Valley. That means we must expend $4.3 billion in the Valley to build infrastructure somewhere between Merced and Bakersfield. Of course, any agreement as to how to expend these funds would be contingent upon ongoing environmental review process, as the record of decision and notice of determination and final selection of the alignment would not be yet completed for either Central Valley section by the time the grant cooperative agreement is executed with the FRA. Such agreement would be conditioned upon successful completion of the project-level environmental impact studies, the selection of a final preferred alternative route within the selected section, and the conclusion of the record of record of decision and notice of determination for the selection by the fall of 2011. The authority would retain discretion over the outcome of the environmental process and would have the ability to seek adjustments in the grant agreement, if necessary, based on its final decisions. Before I ask our program director, General Van Winkle, to walk us through the options before you and the evaluations of each, I want to make a few statements which I hope will clear up more information about what is and is not an issue in today's discussion. Many of these comments are based on feedback we have received from stakeholders, and I want to assure you we have had hundreds of conversations and received a significant amount of input. We are not recommending to you today a first operable segment of the high-speed train system. As you astutely put it, Vice Chairman Umberg, we are recommending a place to start on building the state's backbone passenger rail system, a complete high-speed rail system to connect Southern and Northern California, including the metropolitan areas of Los Angeles and Anaheim, the Bay Area, and subsequently San Diego and Sacramento. On a staff level, our entire conversation and deliberation has been framed with that in mind, that this is a starting point. None of the sections being presented today would suffice for California to begin a high-speed train operation. Never have we suggested such, neither in our business plan or in our applications made to the FRA for funding. To believe high-speed train service could or would be run on a short piece of track is to misunderstand the nature of high-speed trains. Trains, course systems, such as electrification and maintenance facilities were never contemplated to be purchased within our plans for the initial construction segment. More track miles strung together are necessary before funds could be invested in such core systems. There has been a lack of clarity on the definition of operational independence or independent utility, which is a requirement of the federal government for this funding. What this term does not mean is that a high-speed train service is able to operate on the infrastructure we build with this initial investment. What it does mean is in a worst-case scenario, in which no more dollars are awarded or expended in California, and which will never see a high-speed train system, we will build a $4.33 billion, will be able to, what we build with the $4.33 billion will be able to be used by another intercity passenger rail service. In the examples we will describe to you today, Amtrak San Joaquin service could use the track to shave time off of their trip through the valley. Again, this is a worst-case scenario, fallback scenario that no one ever anticipates having to implement, but it is a smart safeguard put in place by the federal government, which will ensure that no further funds would be made available, that if no further funds would be made available, that the infrastructure built would be beneficial to the state and the nation. The authority is confident that further federal funding will be forthcoming. Depending on the magnitude of this funding, it is the intent of the authority to extend this system both in a northerly and southerly direction. All cities in the Central Valley are important for the system to reach optimal ridership, and therefore it is recommended that planning and design is done, not only for Fresno and Kings Tulare stations, but also Merced and Bakersfield stations. The authority will be aggressively seeking funds to ensure these activities continue. Nothing we do here today has a bearing on the heavy maintenance facility decision process. That selection process continues to be studied as part of the environmental clearance process. Toward the middle of 2011, the board will need to make decisions on the preferred alignments for both Merced to Fresno and Fresno to Bakersfield. Some heavy maintenance facilities may automatically be discarded if they have been associated with a particular alignment which has been withdrawn. It would be in the authority's best interest to retain more than one heavy maintenance facility site so that a decision can be made later on during the project's development as to the best heavy maintenance facility site, a decision which could be shared with the future operators and developers. These sites are only required when high-speed trains are supplied, which is not planned in the next few years. With that, I would like to turn the discussion over to our program director, General Hans Van Winkle, who will describe the parameters of the process, how we arrived at the options before you, and how our evaluation led to the recommendation you have in your board packets.
Thank you, Ms. Pourvahidi.